Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Karen's on My Side. About 6 years ago, when I was about 2 weeks from giving birth, so I was a large land whale, I went with my husband to the grocery store. At one point, he had to go get some stuff for work. They share bringing in snacks to the break room and it was his turn. Despite my size and condition, I was still quite mobile, so while he was off getting his stuff, I noticed we had gotten some stuff that would not have agreed with me in my current condition, and I was tired of barfing on an almost daily basis, so I went to go replace it. I pulled stuff back out of my cart and placed it back in the appropriate place on the shelves. Karen saw me and told me to stop stocking the shelves, and she was going to talk to my manager. I told her everything was fine and that I did not work there, but she marched off looking for a manager. When she came back with a manager, she laid into him about how he was making his poor, pregnant employee stock the shelves, and is this really the kind of place that does this, and if so, she would shop elsewhere. Again, I tried saying I don't work here and I'm fine putting stuff back on the shelves. The manager also tried telling her I don't work there, but she was having none of it. When my husband came into the aisle with his arms full of bags of chips, he saw the manager and the lady arguing and me trying to get a word in, and my husband thought I had gone into labor, so he freaked and dropped the chips and got his phone out to call the hospital. I saw him, told him everything was all right while Karen and the manager were arguing with each other over whether or not I worked there. Finally, I told Karen, "Thanks for the concern, but I really am fine, and I'll be leaving with my husband." We walked, or waddled in my case, down, picked up the chips he had dropped, went to the cashier and checked out. So I guess this a rare instance of, "I want to talk to your manager," was done for the right, although mistaken, reasons. 2 weeks later, my son was born, and due to complications during delivery, I lost a lot of blood and went into a coma for 3 months after delivery. My husband likes to joke, "That's what you get for stocking shelves in your condition." But both my son and I are doing fine now. I never saw Karen again, and the manager made me a nice gift basket he gave to my husband the next time he went in, before I popped. The next story is titled Thought It Was Gonna Be a I Don't Work Here Lady Turned Out Wholesome. I was at Walmart yesterday, trying to get to an item just out of reach, when I noticed someone kinda hanging out behind me. I turned around to see a woman, maybe early 60s, right around my height. She said, "Well, I was hoping you worked here, but I don't think you do." To which I chuckled and replied, "No, I don't. And I was hoping you'd be taller than me, but I think we're at about the same level here." I thought that was just gonna be a little laugh we had together and that'd be the end of it. Instead, this gal proceeded to ask me what I was trying to get in. I crap you not, climbed the shelves to help knock it into my reach. Then I asked her what she needed help with and we worked together to figure out which price labels went to which paper towels. We thanked each other and went our separate ways. In retrospect, I feel bad for letting anyone, especially an older lady, use the shelving as a ladder just to help me get my dumb apple chips. I was honestly so surprised in the moment that I didn't react quickly enough to say anything. Fortunately, she's totally fine, and the whole experience was just pretty dang heartwarming all around. The next story is titled Little Baby Shop of Horrors. This is pretty short and definitely not as good as others, but I was shopping with my mom and daughter at a baby store and this lady walked up the counter. She asked them if there was any bouncers and where they would be. They said they do have bouncers but didn't answer her other question. So she slowly started walking away and said, "I guess I'll just find them on my own again." Then she stopped and looked at me and said, "Do you know where the bouncers are?" I looked around trying to rethink the store setup and then I looked at her and said, "I'm not sure honestly, I am sorry." She took one step and then looked at me again and said, "So do you know where the bouncers are?" And I again just said, "I'm not sure." Finally she walked away while staring at me. And yet again she stopped and looked at me from about 7 feet away and said, "Does the store close in 10 minutes? I didn't say anything and she said, "Hey, what time does the store close?" And I looked at her. We were making eye contact for a few seconds and I said, "I am not sure." Then she huffed and walked away. As we were leaving, all I could think this was so weird. Like, I very obviously don't work here, so why was she asking me all of that? Like I said, not the best story here, but I felt like sharing. The next story is titled M Gets Mad When I Tell Her That She Can't Walk Her Daughter at a Private Property. My 22F cousin, 22F, and her family have a beautiful property. Her mom would babysit me during the summers, so I basically grew up there. There are 3 houses with all of her dad's close family living there, which surrounds a big pond. There is a small boat dock, a tennis court and a pavilion. It's surrounded by forest except for the entrance. It is a totally private property, which means that they have big signs at the front of the entrance that says, "No trespassing." There is also another street sign halfway down the road that says, "No trespassing." Her and her family get really annoyed when random people come walking down their property and just ignore the signs. To get to the property, you have to go down a sorta long road that goes past a few buildings. When you first turn into the road, there is a Wawa. Americans who live in NJ, PA, MD or VA, let me know if you know what that is. It's a deli shop, convenience store that has amazing food and coffee, a small strip mall and an apartment complex. I lived in that complex for about a year, which is when this took place. Sorry about the long description, I just hope that this will give you a good enough picture of the area. Now on to the story. When I moved into that apartment complex, I asked my cousin if I could walk my dog around her property. She of course gave me permission. One day after I was done walking my dog around the pond, I was leaving through the front gates, which again, had the NT signs. I saw this random woman walking with her young daughter down towards the entrance, who I have never seen before. I politely asked her if she knew the family who lived there, and she said no. I then pointed at the big sign and I said, "Sorry, it says no trespassing." She then gave me an annoyed face and said, "Well, you were just on their property," and I replied, "Yes, I was, and I know the family. I am related to them and they gave me permission to go down there." She said, "Well, my daughter wants to go down there. Are you saying that she can't explore?" I replied, "If it means that you are trespassing, then yes, I am saying that you and your daughter can't go exploring there." She finally gave out a big, annoyed huff and turned to her daughter and said, in a very rude tone, "Sorry honey, this lady won't let us go down there," and they finally turned around and started walking back. I felt like it would be awkward if I started to walk behind them back to my apartment, so I turned around and just walked my dog around the pond one more time and then left after that. The next day I was with my cousin and I told her about the entitled mom and she thanked me. She said how annoyed she gets when random people show up. I can relate because I also have a property with "No trespassing" signs, yet people still walk down it. Honestly, it's probably the most ignored street sign in America. The next story is titled Starts Wholesome, Gets Dicey, Ends Wholesome. Just stumbled upon this sub and saw some similar stories, so I figured I'd share this little gem from my college days. My bus was delayed by 5 hours at a long-distance terminal in bum-duck nowhere rural Florida. I, short, husky, white teenager, was dressed in a black button-up, red tie, and black pants with my eyeliner and mascara from the Rocky Horror Show I had attended before traveling, probably looking a bit worse for wear. I was sitting for a decent while when I noticed that an older, probably late 60s or early 70s, lady was trying to do something on a self-service kiosk and muttering to herself in Spanish. She seemed to be getting frustrated and was darting her eyes around for employees, but the place was packed with people due to the delays at around 3 a.m., so not many were around. Someone eventually did stop to try to help her, when I heard, "No hablo Ingles," causing the person to just look kind of puzzled and walk off. I was in my 3rd semester of Spanish at the time, so I slowly walked over and said, "Excuse me, do you need some help?" She asked if I spoke Spanish, to which I replied that I was still learning but would do my best. She clapped her chest with a literal, "Dios mío," and we pleasantly worked through what she needed done and went our separate ways. Someone had taken my seat, so I was just standing around for a minute or two when I get the tap on my shoulder. I turned around to see a large white woman with an inordinate amount of luggage and a child in tow. The kid is nose deep into a DS and isn't really paying attention, but she looks me up and down with what appeared to be disgust before demanding that I get her luggage to wherever it has to go. I had no idea where that is, and was honestly super exhausted, so I start to say, "I'm sorry, but I don't W." Before I can finish, she butts in with, "Don't you duck with me. This place is going crazy and every other employee is busy, so even an office guy or supervisor or whatever you are should be out here working with customers. I saw you help that other lady, so you can damn well help me with my bags." I raised my hands and started to explain again that I didn't know anything and didn't work there, but she was not having it and started to raise her voice a bit. At this point her child notices her volume, looks up at me with what seemed like a mixture of confusion and embarrassment, then tugs on her shirt and says, "Mom, I don't think he." She turns quick and gives him a snit, not even a shush. Just like that loud click, hiss noise that dog whisperer guy used on TV. Then she started in on me being a lazy, unprofessional snowflake, or whatever. Just then, the elderly lady comes up from the side of us, shaking her cane at the large woman and shouts in the best English she could muster, "You leave my nephew alone. He's a good boy." Big woman turned to see this old lady with straight-up lightning in her eyes and the big bit of mahogany inches from her face, then just turns around and leaves with her kid. No apology, nothing. Once her and her kid are a fair distance away, I thank the older woman, and she just motions for me to follow her. We go outside to a bench by the entrance and she offers me a cigarette as she lights one up. I say, "No thank you." She then pulls a thermos out of her purse and offers me some coffee. I once again say, "No, thank you," but she pours it anyway and comments about how the coffee here is so terrible. Turns out, she was visiting from Guatemala to see her son who works with a company that imports, blends, and roasts Guatemalan coffee. We're both coffee snobs, so we just sit and chat about coffee, our families, and why on earth I'm dressed like I am until her bus is called to board. I, of course, offer to help her with her luggage, but she says she only has the one small bag and is fine with carrying it. Definitely an interesting capstone to a very interesting weekend. The next story is titled Sorry, Not the Shade of Blue You're Looking For. I worked in entertainment center, in lack of a better term. Basically, it had a bunch of different things, laser tag, bowling, arcade, etc., in one building. Not that important what I do. What is important that I had to wear a bright blue polo with the logo printed on it. Sometimes I will make stops and go into places right after getting off work since that's more convenient. This leads us into two different IDWHL stories. The first time was when I went to Hobby Lobby to pick up some yarn for a crochet project. Now, as the title suggests, I was wearing this blue polo, but it was much lighter than the dark blue vests of the employees here. Also, to be noted, I'm very socially awkward, and I avoid people in public. As I'm heading to the back, I notice a lady pushing her cart and go out of my way to avoid that aisle, one of the very short aisles in the front. However, I near immediately hear an, "Excuse me." I ignored it thinking it wasn't for me, but I hear another, "Excuse me." I still don't get she's calling out to me, so she raises her voice for one last, "Excuse me." I finally turn around, and she asks me if I work here. I just point at my bright blue polo, and when she doesn't get the hint I point to the company's logo and turn back around. She mumbled out an, "Sorry, I saw your shirt and thought you worked here." The second time was when I went to pick up a litter tray at a pet store. The uniform here did have blue shirts this time, but still not nearly the same blue. This time I walk in, and I only have a short walk to grab the exact thing in a place I know where it is. After the few seconds I had been in there, a lady stopped me. "Did you just walk in?" I responded, "Yeah, because I had. I'm looking for something for my dog." I was confused for a second before I realized she thought I worked there. I quickly told her I worked for a different place, and she immediately turned around and left. I was baffled that people could not seem to see the clear completely different colors. Or the different logo. I know I memorized the uniforms of employees before I dared ask a question. So strange. The next story is titled While Shopping at Walmart. After work one day, I stopped in at my local Walmart to pick up a few things on my way home. I'm walking down a main aisle about to head to the registers, and I keep hearing, "Excuse me. Excuse me." Curious, I look up and this older woman is walking right towards me, pushing a buggy. We make eye contact, and she says, "Do you work here?" I'm baffled. I look down at my outfit, dark green matching scrubs with a stethoscope and ID badge around my neck. Look back up at her and say, "Absolutely not," and walk away. She tuts as I'm walking away saying something about how rude I am. I'm laughing to myself about it while checking out and mention it to the security guard standing near the entrance to the store. We both start laughing and he says, "My first guess looking at you is that you're a doctor, not an employee here. Thanks for the compliment but, not a doctor." The next story is titled Leave It to Me. This isn't my story but the someone who works with me. We work for a retail drugstore chain. I'm going to call my colleague Jane. Our store is 24 hours. I work the morning shift, Jane works the overnight shift. We're both shift supervisors. In recent months shoplifting has become a very bad problem. Monday through Friday between 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. overnight has a frequent customer come in. Let's call her Amanda. Amanda works as a security guard and is in her uniform. She comes into the store before going to work to buy some soda, snacks and cigarettes. She's quite friendly and the staff knows her by name. This particular morning Jane has her eye on a suspected shoplifter, SL. There's a woman somewhere in her mid-20s with a large bag and she's stuffing it with hair products, makeup and other items. Amanda tries to say hi to Jane but Jane signals that she has her eye on someone. Amanda mouths, "Leave it to me." Amanda follows the woman for a few feet, then the following conversation happens. Amanda: "Finding everything okay?" SL: "Yes, everything is great." Amanda: peering into the woman's bag, "Are you shoplifting?" SL: frightened voice: "Yes." Amanda: "I advise you stop and return all the stuff in your bag before I call the police." Amanda starts to take out her cell phone. SL dumps everything in her bag in the middle of the aisle and quickly runs out the door. As SL is dumping her stuff, Amanda tells her, "I'd better not see you in this store again or I will call the police and report this incident." Amanda informs Jane about the pile of merchandise and proceeds to do her shopping. At the cash register, Jane and the cashier are thanking Amanda profusely for her stopping the shoplifter. Amanda says she likes our store and doesn't want people like SL ruining it for her. "All I will say is, Amanda, you rock." The next story is titled I'm Not a Karen. I'm not a Kevin. I work nights at a petrol station and my sister works at the supermarket on my commute. I usually pop in after my shift to get some essentials and have a chat with my sister. She collects the online deliveries. I find my sister and she immediately tells me that one of her coworkers needs my advice. I'm the family carpenter and the go-to for repairs and light construction. She finds her coworker and asks for advice on fitting custom blinds. An easy job that every contractor she called said no, not worth the time. She doesn't have a clue what to do, so I offer my services for a small fee. While I'm doing all this, I don't see the woman behind me trying to get my attention. Once coworker had gone, she tapped my shoulder. Not a typical Karen, tall, blonde, vintage glasses, pencil skirt and a wool sweater, she looked like an attractive librarian. She asked, "Do I know when the party section will be open?" "Sorry my dear, I have no idea." I told her straight. "Oh, I thought you worked here, you were talking to the staff for a long while," she replied. "I don't, but my sister does." I pointed to my sister. She then looks worried. "Oh no, no, it's like Reddit, I'm not a Karen, I'm not a Karen." I know what she means, I read this sub too. Don't panic, I'm not Kevin. She then starts to giggle and I see her relief. My sister is confused by what we mean but answers her question. I thought it was going to be an "I don't work here lady" moment. I read them all the time. She giggled some more. I thought the same thing. I wished her good day and we parted ways. Made me giggle too. I did fit coworkers' blinds. She gave me £30. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.